Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate very much you holding this hearing. And of course, we have another Zimbabwe election, another Mugabe victory through cheating and strong-arming and harassment. And we've seen this before. I've been in Zimbabwe and seen the ads run by ZANU-PF after they were running cars off the road and killing opposition candidates. And the ad shows a truck smashing into the back of a car, saying, I think the gist of it was, driving can be hazardous to your health, but so can voting against ZANU-PF. If it hadn't been mixed with the violence on the ground, you wouldn't know the meaning of that ad. But after enough opposition candidates or people were killed. Now, this is an election in the past, not the one we're talking about. But what's happening now is more consequential in this election because the unity government has collapsed, the opposition party has been sidelined indefinitely, and ZANU hardliners are in control. And I mean the hardliners. I've talked to those who had had second thoughts that were trying to make some change, but they have no input at this point. Mugabe now has unfettered access to all government posts and all state resources, and I think you can expect the graft and the corruption to continue if it's possible to get any more graft and corruption, if it can get worse. Unfortunately, the regional bodies aren't any help, and I have noticed this in the past too in my discussions. The reluctance to say anything critical under any circumstances, the performance of SADC, the Southern African Development Community, has really been a disappointment here. Heralded by the administration at the start of the summer as a force for positive change in Zimbabwe, SADC, in my opinion, is still adding to the problem as they've failed in the past to speak out, and this time the parliamentary group assessment of the July elections, I think, terribly missed the mark. Miraculously, they concluded that the elections were, and I'm going to quote from them, a credible reflection of the will of the people, free and fair, is what they said, while civil society organizations that were on the ground that actually saw the elections and other domestic observers found rampant voter roll tampering, political harassment, political intimidation, and for those who have ever seen the results, because I was there on another occasion in a neighboring state, speaking with some of those who had been beaten, had been intimidated, poll watchers, election, party members who were in the opposition. I've seen the consequences of what they've gone through. And this is so disturbing when you consider that SADC financially backed the group's election observer mission. So you would expect, I mean, given SADC's past in this, I just really wonder. The U.S. funded basically a flawed assessment that Mugabe has used to legitimate his continued despotic rule. And I wrote a letter recently to Administrator Shaw expressing my deep concern of U.S. AID's decision to put the money into SADC, given their temerity in the past to speak out in any significant way with regard to human rights or anything else in Zimbabwe. So adding insult to injury, SADC just elected Mugabe as the deputy chair of the regional body for this year and chair for next year. The public statements coming out of the State Department and our embassy in Harare conveyed that our engagement and sanctions policy will depend on the actions taken by a new Mugabe regime, and in particular, his cabinet appointments. Well, that is becoming clear because yesterday Mugabe swore in his 62-member cabinet, a recycling of old ZANU hardliners, the old guard, some of the most militant of the old guard. And the new information minister was the architect of the sweeping law to clamp down on the media, to clamp down on press freedom. The new finance minister was formerly justice minister and responsible for the judicial crackdowns. And frankly, he's already on our sanctions list. So in May, the administration extended an olive branch and eased sanctions on 2 Zimbabwean banks and delisted 3 individuals from the sanctions list. I will be interested to find out if the July election will cause the administration to reevaluate that decision. And I look forward to hearing from our witnesses and look forward to hearing about what the administration's policy is going to be going forward. And as I said, as being someone who was on the ground in Zimbabwe in the past and has talked to those who were tortured, talked to those who spent their life's work, Africans who spent their life's work trying to get democratic governance, only to be beaten and have their friends killed, it is truly distressing to me, the way the situation we're at right now. Thank you.